If you drop a dollop of heavy whipped cream into a mug of hot cocoa, you know exactly what is going to happen. It floats. Because air was whipped into the cream, it becomes less dense than the liquid, forcing it to the surface. Action and predictable reaction. We expect this logic to govern everything. In the 18th century, philosopher Gottfried Leibniz formalized this deeply ingrained instinct as the principle of sufficient reason. It is the human assumption that absolutely everything that exists must have a ground, a clear reason, or a logical mechanism behind it. But we have to remember where that instinct comes from. Our brains were forged on the plains of the African savanna. We evolved a highly tuned capacity to recognize cause and effect patterns so we could avoid being eaten by predators. We developed terrestrial survival logic, not the biological hardware required to solve cosmic mysteries. So when we look up and ask the ultimate question, why is there something rather than nothing, our biology screams at us. It forces our intuition to blindly seek out a specific creator or a physical mechanism that built the universe. Applying that terrestrial survival logic to the cosmos is a mistake. To understand reality, we have to look past our own evolutionary instincts. We are going to use modern physics to dismantle 5 logical models of existence, starting with the ones that feel the most comfortable. The first 2 intuitive models we lean on are intentionality and elegance. We want to find a deliberate creator or a deeply elegant underlying principle that makes our existence somehow special. The actual physics paint a much messier picture. In the extreme heat of the early universe, conditions were right for matter to move freely back and forth between mass and energy. The intense heat converted pure energy into perfectly balanced pairs of particles, matter and its exact opposite, antimatter. The rule for these pairs is absolute. When matter and antimatter meet, they annihilate. They literally kiss and revert entirely into pure light. Under those perfect mathematical rules, the universe should be filled with nothing but light. But an anomaly occurred. Exactly 1 out of every million matter particles lacked an antimatter partner. It survived the annihilation. This is the equivalent of flipping a coin and getting heads 10 times in a row. When you run a massive number of trials, streaks happen. It doesn't require a mystical, localized heads energy. It is just pure statistical probability playing out over an incredibly massive sample size. The stars, the planets, the device you are watching this on, everything we are is not the result of an elegant principle or intentional design. We exist because of a blind, statistical asymmetry in the early universe. We are the stuff that didn't get a date. That brings us to the 3rd and 4th models. The metaverse, which suggests our universe was spawned by an older parent universe, and coherence, the idea that physical nothingness is simply impossible. Both assume that a timeline of causes must extend infinitely backwards. To test that timeline, physicists rely on equations that describe the quantum state of the entire cosmos, most notably the Wheeler-DeWitt equation. This visual illustrates the math of a zero-energy universe. The positive energy of all the physical matter you see is perfectly canceled out by the negative energy of gravity. When you tally up both sides of the cosmic ledger, the net total of our universe is exactly 0. The most jarring consequence of a closed zero-energy system is what happens to the clock. In this model, time does not tick eternally in the background. Time is an internal property of the system itself. There is no timeline extending outside of it. If there is no external timeline, there is no such thing as before. Without a before, there is no sequence of events that requires a physical mechanism to trigger the universe into existence. Because a zero-energy universe is entirely self-contained, it does not require a parent universe to spawn it. It needs no preceding cause. This leaves us with the 5th and final surviving model, the brute fact. Reality itself simply exists, without an external reason, cause, or purpose. Cause and effect is just an emergent property. It is the rule for how things interact inside the universe, but it is not the master law that governs the creation of the universe itself. If that feels incredibly unsatisfying, look at the biological intelligence baseline of our closest relative, the chimpanzee. The smartest chimpanzee in the world reaches the cognitive capacity of a human toddler. You cannot sit down and explain a grocery list to a chimp because their brains are physically incapable of processing it. That hard barrier in comprehension is dictated by a mere 1% difference in our DNA. Our inability to intuitively accept a brute fact universe is just our own neurological limit showing its edges. We are no different than a chimp staring blankly at a grocery list. Concepts like multidimensional spaces, zero-energy universes, and uncaused existences simply break our primate hardware. But when we let go of the demand for a cosmic cause, we can step back and see reality for what it is. Without the need for a mechanism or a grand reason, we are free to stand in awe of our unlikely, one-in-a-million existence.